We begin in Australia, where a gunman holding some 20 people as hostages in central Sydney, Australia, is demanding an ISIS flag and a phone call with Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. Australian authorities have maintained a tight-lipped strategy but have confirmed to journalists that a negotiation is underway with the gunman. Asha Mwilu now reports.
In just a couple of minutes, one man had taken siege of Lint Cafe in Australia's buzzing city, Sydney. About 24 civilians, a number yet to be confirmed by Australian authorities, had been taken hostage. The cafe owner explaining that those held inside the small coffee shop were staff members and customers.
This is a very disturbing incident. I can understand the concerns and anxieties of the Australian people at a time like this, but our thoughts and prayers must above all go out to the individuals who are caught up in this.
5 hours into the siege, hundreds of officers from New South Wales Police Service had surrounded the scene. While adjacent buildings were gradually evacuated, few updates came from the cafe, where some hostages were seen briefly displaying a black flag with white Islamic writings. While 3 hostages escaped through a back route from the cafe, 2 others managed to dash out with an unconfirmed number still remaining under the gunman's grip.
We don't yet know the motivation of the perpetrator. We don't know whether this is politically motivated, although obviously there are some indications that it could be.
That statement, however, appeared insufficient for the gunman. He is now demanding a flag of the Islamic State ISIS, a Middle Eastern group that is currently considered the most dangerous terror group globally.
National Security Committee of the Cabinet.
He also wants a phone conversation with Tony Abbott, the Australian Prime Minister. In September this year, Australia committed 600 troops to fight against the Islamic State as part of a multilateral effort. In the same month, Australia raised its terror threat from medium to high for the first time since the system was introduced in 2003.
Let's come back home now, and media practitioners are proposing amendments to the Security Laws Amendment Bill currently before the National Assembly. These include the media owners, the Media Council of Kenyans, and the Editors Guild.
Even some of the questions from the media, you begin to think that we have every justification for clamping down on the media, and that clamping down on the media will do away with terrorists. It won't. See, because there are serious issues about, security operations that ought to deal with that. Even if the media never reported, it doesn't mean that there won't be any terrorism. What we are saying is that the media is one institution that is responding to this new arrangement. Just like the government is grappling. The government has security apparatus, is grappling with this. So the media is equally looking at how best can it work around some of this without necessarily, offending, or creating an environment where the terrorists, actually celebrate.
As citizens of this country, we are all affected by the terrorism. And what we are saying is, it is important that we face this war against terror together as a country. And we know Parliament and the National Assembly is going to consider our memorandum. And come Thursday, we are going to uphold the freedom of the press and help we jointly with the government and the media practitioners handle this threat to our country together.
We shall also be making our proposals on the article on National Intelligence Act, which gives provision that if you are found in possession of any object or material that could be used for commission of a serious offense, or any suspect engaging in any act of or thing of being in possession of anything which poses a threat to national security, we shall be making some submission on that, because basically it means if reporters have any working notes, right, which in the eyes of security are considered as a contradiction to this provision, then you'll be liable for the penalties which apply to this section.
We really would like to avoid a situation where on these particular ones, because this, we go to court, because this is about our security. So we don't want to be contesting and fighting in our own courts about the things that are so important to us. So I really urge Parliament to do their job as one of the institutions in this country safeguarding the Constitution, so that we don't fight or we don't go to court on an issue that we all agree we should deal with, on an issue that poses an existential threat to our country. So in my view, I just say that there are other things, but this fraternity, the media fraternity, does not want to be challenging laws that have been passed by our Parliament in court. We don't want to be doing that, because that's a waste of time, and we lose the steps in the fight against terror.
Still on the same, we move to Nakuru now, where religious leaders under the affiliation of Likia and Beyond Peace and Conflict Resolution Council say they support the Security Laws Amendment Bill.
Failure to come out in support of this security bill, it might make us think that you are either a sympathizer of terrorists or you belong to that group. That our request to parliamentarian is to pass the bill regardless of their party background with one accord, knowing that every politicians in this country, they have some bodyguards. Only the civilians of Kenya have no bodyguards. So the bill must be passed as yesterday, because it is going to care for all Kenyans.
Tunasupport hiyo bill iweze bunge waweze kuiunga mkono because of security of this country, because kama hatutakuwa na security basi hatutakuwa na maendeleo katika Kenya. So we want that wabunge waweze kusupport.
And news coming in from Homa Bay indicates that ODM nominations in Homa Bay have aborted after rowdy youths destroyed ballot boxes. We are informed that the candidates campered for safety as the police moved in to restore calm. Well, we now join our reporter Victor Ogale on telephone for more details. Victor, if you can hear me, can you confirm this information and what is happening where you are right now?
Ian, what you're saying is exactly true. There have been chaotic scenes here, the Homa Bay County headquarters, where we had rowdy youth interrupt the senatorial ODM nominations. Basically, what happened, a minute past 11, we had TJ, who's Otieno Kajwang's brother, who's also a member of parliament for Langata in Nairobi County. He was among the delegates who were seated here, and also a section of the delegates noticed his presence, and they started questioning his presence here in Homa Bay County and why is he here. And that's when youth started approaching where he was seated, his bodyguard fired up, and it became chaotic. People started kicking the ballot boxes, throwing seats all over. Cops had also to disperse people for safety, and also the other delegates had to camp for safety, and it was chaotic, as you just said.
And Victor, have you spoken to the candidates, and if so, what are they saying about this?
Yeah, well, I managed to talk to Karoli Omondi, also Philip Okundi, and just to put in the know, Philip Okundi is a former chairman of the ODM election board, and he was a chairman for 5 years, and he condemned the incidents that happened a few minutes ago, and he appealed to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, also the party leader, to look into the matter seriously and keenly if he wants to see development in the party. He also questioned the manner in which some delegates were being added last minute into the list and others were being omitted. And just to put in the local audio, Mondi also said that there are some constituencies in Homa Bay County that were not involved, that they did not have delegates represented here during today's exercise.
And finally, Victor, maybe have you talked to the police, and what are they saying about this youth, maybe from where they're from?
The police, they did not actually manage to arrest anyone. All they did was just disperse people. Even now, as I'm talking, we're being pushed to leave the county presence, the headquarters. And so we have not seen any arrest, but they're just trying to bring calm, because there are people who are working here at the county assembly. There's people who normally report here daily duties to work every day. And so everything is calm right now. As I'm talking, there are people who are gathering the seats where the tents were behind the county headquarters, where the delegates are seated.
Thank you very much, Victor Gale, for that. That is Victor joining us from Homa Bay. Of course, we shall have more on that in our subsequent bulletins. Sorry, let's move on now. The widow of the late cabinet minister Mbiu Koinange, Eda Wanjiru, and her stepson David Njuno have been acquitted of murder charges by a Nakuru court. They had been accused in the murder case of slain Maasai Lands activist Moses Olempoe. Lady Justice Janet Mulwa, who delivered the judgment on behalf of Justice Helen Omondi, set the accused free due to insufficient evidence. She said the charges were based on mere suspicion. The judge said the case had numerous loopholes that the prosecution had failed to seal. The two were acquitted of the murder together with 5 others accused persons. The case has been linked to a dispute of over 4,200-acre controversial Mudera farm in Mount Narok. The farm, owned by the family of the late Mbiu Koinange, has been embroiled in a protracted ownership dispute. Mpoe and Parasia Olenkitu were shot dead by a gunman at Soilo Junction on the Nakuru-Eldoret Highway in December 2010. Mpoe's family has expressed displeasure with the ruling.
Submission on the 2nd of February 2015. Number 8.
Uhaki umepatikana. Hiyo tunakuwa tumestakiwa bure. Marehemu Mbiu Koinange alinunua hiyo shamba kutoka kwa serikali kupitia kwa SFT.
Sasa mimi nasema kama serikali na watu yote, serikali na nadarea ananchi yote itetie mimi kwa ajili mimi bado nitika kwa bwana yangu kwa ajili anakushaonekana muuaji ya bwana yangu kabisa, lakini serikali anapisha. Na mimi tena bwana Ikanjo ndio anaindika bwana yangu kwa shamba. Anakuja kusumbua mimi kwa hiyo shamba na baada watoto yangu mimi asitoka kwa hiyo shamba.
Justice hajafanyika ya ukweli, justice ilifanyika ya ukora ya pesa. Na mimi naomba Kenya kwa jumla, kama mtakuwa mkifuata haki kwa kotini, haja gani mtu narudi kuleta kotini? Si hata mimi nichukue panga na niende nijilipishie. Juu sasa kama mnaleta mtu kotini na mnasema tusichukue sheria mkononi na unajua right na ushukuliwe hatua, utafanya nini the last?
Elsewhere, the Ugandan housemaid who was caught on camera torturing an 18-month-old baby has been sentenced to 4 years in jail by a Kampala court. According to Uganda's New Vision paper, Julie Tuhumire had on Monday apologized to the parents of the child and to the general public. She is reported to have said that she did not know what came over her to commit such inhuman act. She also pleaded guilty to torture charges. A section of observers had thought that the maid was mentally disturbed to have tortured such a helpless child in a manner likely to kill her. A psychiatric assessment established that Tuhumire was of sane mind. The tortured baby was taken through medical tests after the ordeal and found to be okay.
I'm sure you've heard about
Some very disturbing images right there. Elsewhere, activities along Langata Road came to a standstill this morning as bypass workers and employees of China Road Bridge Corporation blocked the road. They were protesting against alleged poor working conditions and remuneration. The disgruntled employees engaged GSU officers in running battles. They're asking the government to intervene as a matter of urgency. Efforts to contact the management of China Road Bridge Company bore no fruits as they declined to talk to us.
Sisi tunatoka utawala, tunabebwa na tipa na ili hali tunatengeneza barabara ya mabilioni. This is a road of 17 billion shillings. Na ili hali tunabebwa na tipa, tunanyeshewa kutoka asubuhi na tunakuja kazini. At least 3 of our friends have died because of hii baridi ya kuchapu kwa tipa hii.
Mwezi wa 9 tumengojea nyongeza, hatujapata hata siku ya leo. Ndio tukaamua sisi wafanyikazi tuulize nyongeza yetu ya mwaka huu iliyobaki ili tujue imekwaje. Hatujapata majibu. Ndio tukaamua siku ya leo tuulize haki yetu ya nyongeza ya mwezi wa 9 ilienda wapi.
We have been taxed overtime and house allowances. We still don't understand how that one happens. We don't know at all. House allowances and overtime, we get taxed. Why? We don't know why. Whatever they are telling you about NSF, if we don't have that money in our accounts, we should get that money right back. Now
Kenya turned 51 last Friday in a ceremony that came with lots of singing and dancing. Well, on Mock the Week, Jerry Mushura tells us why to some people, dancing is not what you and I know as a coordination of music. She also tells us why we should always listen to our elders. Take a look.
And welcome to Mock the Week. My name is Jerry Muchura, and as you can see, I am still sitting in for Wilson Boro, who I now understand has left the civil service to join the GSU. Why? Because apparently the GSU are much more fun. Speaking of dancing, it was a week to sing, dance and celebrate Kenya's steady journey into old age as the country marked 51 years of independence, which coincidentally also marked the onset of midlife crisis. In fact, this was such an exciting news that the president found himself belting out tunes of joy to his mother country. Until he remembered that singing is not exactly his strongest point. Remember his audition for Project Fame?
This is my story. This is my song.
Yeah, my advice, Mr. President, stick to presidenting. For instance, well, I think you can do that as well. Which reminds me, this almost sounds like I've heard this before. Yes, it would seem that finally number 4 had learned from number 3 on how to make people more attentive to his speeches. Wait a minute. Remember this? Well, that explains everything, doesn't it? Still on the Jamhuri Day celebrations, there's a region called Embu, and these fellows had a different idea on what the Jamhuri Day celebrations should be. Yes. On a day when every other Kenyan felt patriotic enough to fight for independence all over again, these fellows in Embu thought it was a good idea to express their displeasure by interrupting the celebrations. It was a good thing though, because we got to see what their governor looks like outside of a courtroom.
Na shukuru nyinyi kwa kura zenu, mlimpatia nyingi sana. Mimi taendelea na kazi ya governor mpaka mwaka wa 2017 alafu nirudi kwenu.
It almost sounds like he's reminding himself what he does for a living. But you know, those hooligans learned this interruption of business from somewhere, right? The MCAs, yes, the MCAs are back, and we here on Mock the Week could not be happier because once again, they decided to showcase their maturity at debates. Just when we thought these magnificent politicians had finally decided to get to work.
Don't tell us the reports we don't want to hear.
Whatever that is that they do, they once again reminded us what really is important to them.
We are always told that we are a replicant of parliament. Mheshimiwa mbunge, Mheshimiwa senator, president hawezi pewa background, na sisi ambayo tunafanya mambo ya tunafanya the same job, we are denied.
Calm down, Mr. President. These fellows have a point. Didn't I hear that we're now growing money on trees? Money, money, money. Must be funny in the rich man's world. And another thing, The similarities between MCAs and MPs are more than we want to accept. For example, but before we got to that, let me explain how we got here. This guy sent these guys a draft bill on security and said, "Go ye and pass." Small problem. Not everyone was in the mood to comply, so they started talking loudly.
We would also be very foolish if you hear there's a snake in your house and you light fire in the house with your children and all your relatives in the house.
What am I saying? Honorable Speaker, we must rise to the occasion.
When the talking became tedious, they did what came to them naturally. Thank you so much, MCAs and MPs. Thank you for showing Kenyans that instead of using words to solve problems, it's okay to use your fists. That's a great example to set as leaders. Well done, well done, well done. In fact, we are so happy for you. This is the reaction in our hearts right now.
Hey, see you, baby.
Speaking of happiness, former Starehe MP Margaret Wanjiru decided that the orange in the Orange Party had become too sour or had been attacked by too many maggots. Either way, she decided that the dove was more likely to offer some much-needed peace.
Mr. Governor, you are more concerned about developing Nyanza than developing Nairobi.
And the moral of the story is, MCAs and MPs, you really need to grow up. This is Jerry Muchura reporting for Mock the Week.
Do catch Smoke the Week every Sunday at 9 p.m. on KTN Weekend Prime. We are taking a short break, but don't go too far. When we come back, we have a look at the new fuel prices. Business Desk. The Energy Regulatory Commission has cut fuel prices by an average of 4 shillings and 46 cents per litre, handing consumers much-needed reprieve ahead of the festive season. Consumers in Nairobi will now pay 90 shillings and 85 cents per litre of diesel, 71 shillings and 37 cents for kerosene, and 102 shillings for super petrol. The key driver for the reduced prices has been the steep plunge in international crude oil prices, which have plummeted 50% in the last 6 months, from $115 a barrel in June to $63 a barrel on Friday. ERC said the weakening of the shilling against the dollar had curbed the Commission's ability to cut prices more. Elsewhere, coffee farmers in Embu County have received 20,000 Batian coffee seedlings from Sasani as the farm begins a 5-year plan to boost the production and quality of coffee grown in the country. According to the farm, farmers in the country continue to produce less than 1 kilogram of coffee per bush per year, which is less than the other countries. Moreover, the production of the commodity has fallen from 130,000 metric tons to 20 years ago to a paltry 40,000 metric tons last year. And this has seen the country earn less for the crop, with the bringing of 10.4 billion shillings last year, down from 15 billion shillings the previous year. Embu Governor Martin Wambora said the county will ensure the farmers have enough quality seedlings ahead of next year's rainy season. Batian coffee is usually disease-resistant and matures earlier than other varieties. Let's do this again, same time, same place tomorrow. My name is Ian Ofula. Do have yourself a lovely afternoon.